Welcome to the Sunny Side Up podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Janelle, and I am honored to have a guest on today's episode, Daniel Nuno. I'm so excited for you to be here. It's like we've been talking about having an episode for a very long time now. Since how long? Like 3 months? 3 months or so?
Minimum 3 months.
Minimum
Probably
3 months.
like 4 plus.
Yeah, it might be a little bit longer than that, but
June,
it's
July,
okay.
August, September, October. So
Ooh,
like
that's
5
4.
months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 months. Yeah, I can't count. It's okay. This podcast is all about spreading the positivity, whatever situation that we are in. And today's episode is really about planting your seeds and planting your seeds now. What does planting seeds mean to you in the
Oof.
context of personal development and your growth?
There's like a Broadway, I don't know if it's a musical or whatever that I really like. It's called Hamilton. Have you ever heard of it? I'm just
I've
kidding.
heard of it, yeah, but I've
Yeah.
never seen it.
So Hamilton, he references legacy and he says legacy is planting seeds in a garden you never see grow. And when I think about like personal development and having like massive impact, I hope that I can, one, plant seeds for myself, to grow and help others so that like the work that I'm doing on myself will leave a legacy. I think of like my son, I think of my family, something that'll outlive me. And I recognize that like trauma's passed down, unconscious programs passed down, generation to generation. And unless someone addresses it and becomes aware of it and writes a different program for their family or for their offspring or whatever or their loved ones or their circle, then we just run that same program.
Wow.
And so can I continue speaking to that?
Of course, absolutely. You're the
And
guest.
so planting seeds for me is just like, I just think of like taking action, as much as like Mother Nature can water and sun, like you have to plant the seed, that's on us. How the crop turns out, I mean, that is on us to a certain degree, but also like completely out of our control, right? So it's just like putting in the effort, showing up the best version of myself with the awarenesses that I have. Yeah, doing the things that I know I'm unskilled at, but I'm conscious of it at this point, and just getting the reps in, working like in faith instead of fear, and just kind of all the things that we've been learning this last year that have been, they're little seeds that get planted for me, and then I in turn like take action on them and just keep going and keep going.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about like planting seeds too is like you'll plant a seed and you'll go throughout your life. You'll forget about it, right? You go throughout your life and then all of a sudden it actually starts growing in fruition, But it like to your point, it all comes down to you taking that action. It all comes down to you doing it regardless of whatever the how the crop actually turns out. Like to an extent it is our responsibility, but sometimes it also isn't. Because like what if we planted that seed in an environment where it couldn't really grow?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to be mindful of that. And so like today we get to like be in choice and say like, oh, I'm gonna make the best move with the awarenesses that I currently have. And if like 5 years down the road, I look back and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have planted that seed in that spot. Well, then that's just wisdom,
Yeah.
because we've learned from it and we've grown from it. And then we get to help other people who are maybe on that path or however it works out. I mean, like I think the point to this is like growth comes from planting seeds, like we have to plant in order to see things grow and in ourselves. And yeah, for me, what just keeps coming up is just like taking action. And I really love the idea of like, it's not like I'm like really set on like having a legacy or anything like that. Like that stuff's not important to me consciously right now. But what is important to me is like, my son and the things that I teach him. And I recognize that he's going to pick up on my program, my belief system, in all aspects. And that's going to be the model of his world, And so I just want to do the work for myself, work through the things that, have been limiting beliefs for me so that doesn't get passed on to him. So you can see someone who like I said, walks in faith, like takes action, always puts in the effort, shows up for himself, for myself, never gives up, never gives up. Like there's no way my son will never see me give up. And I mean, and even when I die, it's not me. It's just God's like, hey, it's your turn. Your date's up, dog. I'll never give up on any of the things that I'm doing. That's why I tell everybody, like whoever's working with me, like strap up because we're going, like when we're not stopping. I don't care what comes in my way. There's nothing that's ever going to stop me from moving forward on the goals that I'm working on. And those things are rooted in like helping other other people, having impact on other people's lives, and it starts with me.
That is so amazing. To where you're teaching your son that like planting seeds is just second nature, honestly.
Yeah.
You just do it without thinking and it just becomes like your everyday practice. Your everyday what you do with like you're making a habit, a conscious habit and also setting the intention for for planting that seed. That's amazing. That's such a
What?
great place to be too.
Yeah. Let me ask you that. Can I ask you, like, what does that mean to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So planting seeds it really does go back on like the action, right? But it's also setting the intention like where you put your seeds and where they grow is all going based off of like what is your intention on doing that, right? And that's why I asked you the question like it or I also said to you is like, you also have to be mindful of like where you're planting that seed because if not
Yeah.
then that plant is not gonna I mean, whatever you have in there is not gonna grow, you know? Even though like we are talking about positivity on this podcast, it does come back to you're learning from that experience and you're learning from your actions that you did take, even though that may not be the certain reality, you know?
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think, like, I think the beauty of it all is because I can look back on my life. So I'm 41 now. I can look back on my life and I've seen where I've put effort into or planted seeds on concrete, like I was putting a lot
Wow.
of effort into something that the soil wasn't fertile. It wasn't even, there was never a possibility for something to grow there, but I put a
Wow.
lot of time into it. I put a lot of effort into it. And it was just where I was at the time. I was just unaware that I had choice. I just thought that this was how things were supposed to be. And, I don't like it, but I'm just going to put all this effort into this, even though, like,
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm in the right situation. I'm still going to,
It was the program that you
effort.
were in.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's the beauty of even like of just like the action of attempting to just the action
Mhm.
portion of it. Because there's always a lesson, there's always a lesson.
Mhm.
And we've been, we've talked about like finding the gift and seeing the gift in things. And
Mhm.
so like there's a gift even in planting a seed on freaking concrete. At some point you'll look back and you'll be like, oh, I wasted a lot of time there. I like
Mhm.
maybe I can help somebody who's also throwing seeds on concrete, at some point. And I think that is the gift is the wisdom in those type of situations where like you're putting a lot of effort in, but it's just not in the right place. So
Yeah. And then that's where you start to ask yourself a different question of like, all right, well what is going great here or what's going great in another area of where I planted seeds and put more focus on that because you know that's already doing great. So you might as well shift your focus over there.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, totally.
Which is really important because I mean, to be honest, to some of your points, like we can stay stuck in certain areas of where it's like you have to kind of like let it go,
Yeah,
learn from that experience and the way that I like would like to put this is to like try learn the experience and get out as like fast as possible so
yeah.
you don't stay there for a long time because if not you'll stay there stuck you'll be there for not forever but you'll be there for a very long time.
I'll share an
Yeah.
experience with you. So just the other day, it was like right before I left Florida. It was Sunday night. I was stressing out because I was like, my contractor's supposed to finish our addition. I'm concerned because there's like because it's an addition, so part of it covers our roof, and part of our roof isn't shingled yet because the permit it hasn't been signed off on yet. And so like I was stressing about that, and I'm like, dude, I need this guy out here to fix this. And I was like I recognized that I was totally being like a victim, but I was putting a lot of
Mm.
effort into this one way it had to be. And my old program would have just been stressing, continue to stress, continue to stress. And then I was like, all of a sudden I was just like, whoa, I'm like not in choice right now.
Wow.
I'm being a victim. And I said, what would someone in choice do? So I said, oh, someone in choice would just hire someone else. Someone in choice would just find someone else to do it. I don't know why I felt like I had to be stuck in that
Wow.
moment, with that same contractor. Although I really like the guy, I recognized that being a victim because I wasn't in choice. So immediately I was like, okay, I have my cousin who knows tons of people who do construction. I'm like, plus, I mean, I can find somebody. It's not that big of a deal.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like my whole world shifted because I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we got the solution. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's awesome now. It's interesting how just like I can identify now in those moments where I'm like not in choice. And when I'm not in choice, I'm a victim. I'm playing a victim. And so those are the types of things that I'm seeing grow for me, and those awarenesses, and something that like I'll continue to work on for myself. But yeah, this all goes to the point of like where are we putting our efforts? Personal development. That's a big one for us, for you and I
Mhm.
and the people that we see in our community and how they're thriving and doing great things for themselves, which is where all success stems from. It's all
Mhm.
internal,
Yep,
it's all internal shit.
yep. It's
And
the inside job.
it's an inside job. And that
Mhm.
stuff, and look at like, and it's layered, and it's
Mhm.
layered, and it's like, and the work never stops. I don't believe the
No.
work never stops.
No, 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 absolutely not.
Cause like I'm in a 12-step program and I've gone through the steps multiple times and I've gotten a lot from them. And that's a form of personal development. And those are like a lot of things that we touch on even in our group. But the things we don't touch on are like the deeper things like the childhood stuff and really like that old program.
Mhm.
We work on things from like in a 12-step group, you work on things from like an adult perspective and you make sense of it and you own your things and you make an amends and things like that. But like the trauma work is never done. And I even heard Gabor Mate, which is like he's an expert in child psychology, especially child trauma, and he even made that note. And this was just recently, like 2 days ago, on a podcast, on Theo Vaughn's podcast. I really like Theo Vaughn. He was like, that's the only gripe I have about 12-step groups is they never address the trauma. So
Mm.
so for me, I've done a lot of like personal development stuff, but now we're like getting deeper. Now we're getting deeper with it. And it sounds like it's a lifetime journey, and I love the path that I'm on today. I'm able to meet, life with a different perspective and I'm able to be accountable and own it. I'm able to be empowered by things. I'm able to like live in choice and not be a victim, or at least recognize it. You
Yeah,
know, be like, what's going on? Okay, I'm being a
yeah.
victim. That's what it is.
Yeah, but what you did right there is really just taking full responsibility of it all, and it's a beautiful place to be because you know that not a lot of people are there. Not a lot of people do, like, the work, like, how quick did it take y and it's not well, I'm not saying, like, did it take you 5 minutes, 30 seconds, or something like that. It's more of, like, how were you how long did it take for you to recognize all of this versus you to think about it years later? You know what
Yeah,
I
no,
mean?
totally. Yeah, no, I mean,
Comparing it.
old me would have been tripping for until the job got done, which would be like day in and day out. But
Wow.
it took me. I mean, like I was sitting there, I like couldn't fall asleep for like probably like a couple hours. I was like, I feel bad, I don't feel good
Mhm.
about it. It's like it's stressing me out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's my life.
It's
Like I
me.
can
Yeah.
choose. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so yeah, I mean, and really, like a year ago, that's how I was navigating. That was just like my way. And if anyone would have asked me, like, "Are you being a victim?" I would have been like, "Hell no, I'll
Yeah.
never. I'm not a victim. I don't play victim." But
Mhm.
now I recognize like there's like this overt like, oh, this person's playing the victim and blaming everything on everyone, and there's
Mhm.
like, oh, I have the choice over my own life. I'm in choice and
Mhm. You
understanding
don't
what that
have to
means.
do that. There's things that you
Yeah,
don't have to do, you know?
yeah, yeah. And there's other ways of figuring stuff out. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be done the way that if I'm not liking it and it doesn't sit well with me, then I can tell myself that I am not in choice. I'm being a victim. So what would Daniel in choice look like? You know,
Wow.
that's really the question I ask myself.
Yeah. So you would say that you've put a practice or so for you to, like, whenever situations come up, or even prior to get you to a solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I would
And
say
what
that.
and what did that practice look like?
So the practice for me is, I mean, it's just like my morning routine. That's part of it.
Mm,
That's part of it. Getting into
wow.
gratitude, getting out of
Win the
myself.
morning, win the day.
Yeah, win the morning, win the day.
Yeah.
This little book right here has been really good for me. It's called The Way to
Wow.
Love. And it just kind of like touches on a lot of attachments and program. Like I've been reading this book for a long time, and it touches on our program a lot, and where that
Wow.
comes from, and how we can do the same things and love more fully and more abundantly without attachments. And
Mhm.
it's just like an awareness book. Just
Yeah.
kind of makes one aware. And I've read this book for years. Every time I read through it, I get a different kind of like a different insight.
Yeah. Depending on where you're at within your life.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't
totally.
that
But they're
crazy?
small, they're short. They're literally like
Like a
like a couple
one-page thing?
pages.
Oh,
Yeah,
a
they're
couple
like a couple
pages.
pages,
Yeah.
but it's a lot. And so it's what I get into every morning. Then I have my gratitude journal, meditation,
Mhm.
that type of stuff.
The silent meditation or like breath work or
I do
what is
guided. I do
oh,
like a
guided.
guided meditation. I'll do
Joe
like a Joe
Dispenza?
Dispenza. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a Joe Dispenza meditation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I always tell myself that I always have to get into I have to get back into my meditations. That's part of my challenge this week. So that, if something were to arise, then I'm good, you know? I can be more in choice. Like I can pick up on it like faster. But even with what you were saying, like I now know.
It's easy. I mean, it's not. It's like easy when you recognize it because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can
Mhm.
choose. Like, oh,
Yep.
okay. Well, now
I'm
that
in
I know
choice.
that, like, now it's so much easier. It's the problem's not big. It's not even a problem actually. It's solved. It's been
Yep.
solved.
And then you
Um,
also ask your go ahead. You were gonna say something.
so I was gonna say so about the meditation thing too. Like, when I first started meditating, and I think even now, like, I don't feel like I really know how to meditate, like, really in an excellent way. But I just
Yeah.
jumped into it. Like, I literally like just jumped into it, and I just do my best to meditate and to let my mind kind of like be guided by whatever's being said, and focus on that and kind of clear up my mind. But initially, like I was just like, all right, just jump in, dude. Like
Yeah.
quit 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 waiting for the perfect time to do it. Just jump in, and so I
That's
did. I
you
just like
planting your
started
seeds
doing it.
right there. Yeah, because you don't know what to expect out of it, but at least you are putting, that plan in motion. It talks about you were talking about putting in action, and that's exactly what you're doing, regardless of what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah,
It's not gonna look perfect, but whose judgment are we against?
yeah,
Our own.
it's a good point.
It's nobody else but ourselves. Because if it works for you, then that's great.
100%.
At least you're doing it. Alrighty. Well, that is episode 3 of the Sunny Side Up podcast with Daniel Nuno. We were sowing seeds today, and yeah, I can't wait to have you on another episode.
I can't wait to be on. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. I'm so glad we finally locked this in. It's been 5 months in the making. You're
I
crushing
have
it.
another 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing, Olivia. I love what you're doing. I love your perspective, your whole personality and everything that you're doing right now.
Thank
So
you.
I'm stoked. I'm like a huge fan, just watching, just waiting. Release those podcasts,
I
girl.
know. Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thanks,
I
Olivia.
love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.